Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We start our press conference. As it was announced, the theme is Venezuela. First, Deputy Representative of the Russian Federation to United Nations, His Excellency Dmitry Polyanskiy. You have the floor, Excellency.
Thank you, Fyodor. I actually decided to take this initiative to maybe clarify a little bit our approaches to the situation around Venezuela. You know our position. I will not make any special introduction because everything is clear about us, but I assume there might be some issues that you wanted to clarify. We are very much worried about what's happening. It's not about only Venezuela, it's about international law, international legality, the way we tackle these issues. And that's why for us it's of paramount importance what's happening. And we have our view. We know that this view is very often not shared by a lot of countries, but that doesn't stop us from expressing our opinion. And actually that's why I'm here. I have the whole folder of materials here, but I will not open it because I don't know what is of particular interest to you. I encourage you to limit questions to Venezuela only, but if you have something very urgent to ask me, I'll try to be helpful. So, the floor is yours.
So, Evelyn, I think. Valeria. Yeah, I know, but you are sitting on the right chair.
It's okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ambassador, for this briefing. Can you please elaborate on the Russian position of what the Vice President Pence said, asking to remove to take off the credentials to the ambassador to Venezuela and give them to the Guaidó ambassador representative? Thank you.
Well, it's very difficult to comment concretely this move because it's diplomatic practice not to give direct comments about actions of this or that personality. I assume that Mr. Pence doesn't have a lot of diplomatic experience, maybe here in the UN. He wanted to make his view clear, and this is not a revelation for us. We know that this administration in our host country is trying to do everything to convince the world that the authorities of Venezuela, the current authorities, are not legal, and that there is some other guy who proclaimed himself president and was acknowledged by Mr. Pence himself in 3 minutes, and that one is a legal one. So, as you know, international community is very much divided there, and it would be a false approach to present the situation as if everybody except for Russia and China that were yesterday in the Security Council are having different position on this. We said yesterday that Mr. Moncada is a legal representative of Venezuela. He has all the credentials. He was appointed according to the practice that is common in the United Nations, and we have absolutely no reason to behave vis-à-vis him in this way, claiming that he is not a legal representative of his country and his government.
Please.
Thank you, Ambassador. One of the main concerns and questions that is being brought up is the presence of Russians and possible military in Venezuela. Your mission and the government of Russia has said that it is humanitarian aid that is being brought up. What is the extent of the cooperation between Russia and Venezuela? In the past, Hugo Chavez had exchanges of military going to study in Russia to do different programs, and that is a long relationship you have had with Venezuela. And this part of the situation they're facing. What is specifically the work you guys are doing there, and what do you want to make sure that is clear in terms of that? Because there's been questions about intervention, there's been questions about military from Russia that is going to support military in Venezuela, and that obviously is a big question for the region.
Thank you for this question. Yes, there was a lot of fuss about us sending our technical specialists to Venezuela, but we reiterated that this was all done in the framework of existing bilateral agreements on technical cooperation and on other matters. We don't see any reasons to curb our relations with Venezuela at this stage, especially when this country needs assistance, all kind of assistance. So a lot of countries, including this one, are shouting at every corner that Venezuela needs assistance, but we are actually the ones who are really rendering this assistance. So Venezuela needs a lot of things. It needs expertise, and we send a lot of technical specialists that really can handle the current problems that they face, unprecedented problems, of course. You know our position about the reason of these problems and why these problems are very much acute right now. So it's not about military, as it was presented. I saw the first reports like Russia is sending troops to Venezuela. Of course, this is a very sexy picture for the news, I understand. But it's very far from reality. So we have bilateral arrangements. We honor these bilateral arrangements, and we will do it upon the request and in total cooperation with legal authorities of Venezuela. So I don't see any reasons to present this as some extraordinary situation. This is normal. This was done before. This will be done. So normal life.
Evelyn.
Is food being used, are humanitarian supplies being used as a weapon of war? Cannot the U.S. give its goods to the Red Cross? And whatever Russia ships in doesn't seem to be enough. There seems to be a great need. That's one question. The second is it time for the former Sudanese president, Bashir, to be delivered to the ICC, the International Criminal Court?
As far as I understand, the former president or the current president, I don't know, there is conflicting news, is not in Venezuela. That's why I'll not very much touch upon this information.
Sorry, sir, you said ask anything. You know the answers to every topic.
Let's wait a little bit for the situation in Sudan to somehow settle down and to see the clear picture of what's happening. I wouldn't rush with any conclusions and comments about this. And as for, I think you answered in your first question, you almost answered it because you echoed very much our approach and a lot of people who spoke yesterday in the Security Council also voiced concern and wishes that humanitarian assistance should not be politicized. It should not be used as a weapon. We saw it very clearly on the 23rd of February when there was this absolutely clear attempt of provocation on Colombian border with delivery of so-called humanitarian assistance. We compared it to the forceful feeding of prisoners that don't want to eat, actually, and didn't ask for the food. Yesterday, a lot of people cited the humanitarian resolution of General Assembly, which is the basis for any efforts for the delivery of humanitarian aid. They quoted it almost perfectly, but they all omitted one passage which is of paramount importance. It is the agreement of the state to which the humanitarian aid is designed. So for us, it's really a key principle, and we think that for any humanitarian assistance, the current and the legal authorities of Venezuela should be asked, and there should be clear approval from their side. They do not deny that there are problems in this country. Yesterday you saw it and you heard it. They are absolutely ready to cooperate with United Nations, with a lot of agencies. They try to cooperate. We also channel our assistance through international organizations. We send a lot of medicaments, of drugs to this country, which are very badly needed. So our approach is that those who want to help, really help Venezuela, they have all the possibilities to do so. It's not that Venezuela is creating obstacle in this regard. No, the kind is that the United States do not want to help this country in this way. They want to make a problem out of this. They want to kind of show that the current government is absolutely incapable of dealing with this aid, that allegedly this government would steal the whole aid and will not give it to the people. That's the picture that they want to create in public opinion, which is totally false picture. So again, those who want to help, they can help. We are helping. Chinese are helping. We will continue to help. There are a lot of problems created now by the United States because of these kind of collateral sanctions to third countries that participate in cooperation with Venezuela. It's sometimes very difficult to proceed with financial transactions with this country. This is a very big problem, but we try to kind of solve these issues, and we will not let Venezuela alone in this situation. We will help with necessary, with the things that they really badly need.
Majid.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. I have two questions. The first one is, if there was a draft resolution right now at the General Assembly, a U.S. draft resolution to change the representative of Venezuela, what do you think it will pass? What is your prediction? Do you think there is enough support at the GA to change the representative of Venezuela? And my second question is, it's a pressing issue about Sudan, and I need your explanation because foreign ministry, your foreign ministry issued a statement that was not so clear, and then a high-level member of parliament, they said that a military coup is in Sudan is unconstitutional. If you can explain your country's position, are you supporting the people's demand in Sudan to change the current regime, the status quo there? Because the statement was not clear, the foreign ministry's statement about that. It was mostly about the Sudan-Russia relations.
The statement was not clear because the situation is not clear. We need to understand, we can't speak about hypothetical situation. You know, we don't really see for this moment what's happening and what are the demands of Sudanese people, because Sudanese people are very different. Some want this, the others want that. Of course, it will be, at the end, the Sudanese people that will decide what to do with this country, same as the Syrian people at the end will decide what's happening in their country. But it's too premature. I wouldn't rush to any comments. I understand your desire to get some clear information, maybe sensation from myself, but I will not be very helpful in this regard. It's happening live, it's happening now. There are a lot of things that are not clear. Sudan is an extremely important country for the region, for a lot of African problems that are being resolved with the help of the Sudanese government. So we would be very cautious at this stage, and we would abstain from really taking sides or giving clear definitions. We need to really wait and to understand what's happening. Russia was always a friend of Sudan and will continue to be a friend of Sudan. In this regard, I can reassure you. As for the resolution, as you might see, I don't have the crystal ball here. My impression is that the United Nations countries are not very much inclined to resolve this issue, because this is something outrageous to take a decision and to deprive a legal representative of a country of his credentials. I don't have very big experience with the United Nations, but I don't remember the situation like this. I remember something was similar with Libya, but it was a bit different, and the context was, of course, a bit different. With Venezuela, it really resembles like an attempt of coup d'etat here in the UN, trying to present the situation as if majority of members is clearly anti-Maduro or pro-Guaidó. I think majority of members are very shameful of this situation, because what's happening is really not good for the world community. This is such an outrageous attempt to impose on an independent country a will of another country, and attempt to mobilize regional and other support for these actions. That it's very difficult to cite any example in history of such a blunt attempt of coup d'etat that is happening right now. And of course, majority of UN members would like to avoid being involved in this situation, because it's very awkward. It's very awkward for them. We are very vocal on this regard. A lot of our colleagues are not very vocal, but I can assure you that the support for international law, for legality in Venezuela and in regard to Venezuela is very strong. So if I were in the shoes of the Americans, I would think twice, really, maybe even 3 times before proceeding with such a move. Of course, it was announced yesterday by Vice President, but it was not clear. He mentioned simply resolution. I don't know, maybe he means Security Council resolution, who knows. You can expect everything from Americans. Or maybe it will be President Trump's resolution sent to the Security Council for approval. I don't know. They are thinking out of the box, as you know, completely out of the box on many issues. So we'll wait and see what they really implement. But I assure you that the picture in the Security Council and in the General Assembly as a whole is not black and white. It's not black and white. There is a lot of black, a lot of white, but there is also a lot of gray. And again, what's happening is not supported by a lot of countries as a process itself, because this is a bad process and it's very difficult to predict where it will lead us, the whole of international community and these countries as well. And this might play a very serious role.
Pamela.
Thank you, Fidor. Ambassador, you said we could ask about anything. You weighed in today on Twitter about Julian Assange's arrest. You said it was a shameful act. Could you tell us what your view of it is in terms of press freedom, or how you see it? And just one quick follow-up, to be clear, would you say that a General Assembly resolution would fail on Venezuela? Thank you.
Do you see a crystal box here in front of me? I can't decide for other members. I will tell you definitely that Russia will not support such a move. That's what I can assure. I know that a lot of others are voicing their opposition. As you might know, there is a group of countries that were mobilized by Venezuela friends, and they still are very weary of all these attempts to question credentials and so on. So it's very difficult to predict, but it would be an extremely difficult attempt from the American colleagues, how you say it in English, a very long shot. But we'll see. They claim to be good shooters, so I don't know.
All right, and
on Assange, I can only give you my personal opinion, of course. I really sympathize with him. He's a whistleblower. It would be very wrong to portray him a pro-Russian guy, for example. He did a lot to criticize Russia. But he is for the freedom of speech. He believes in it like an absolute value, much more than many people in this world. And he can be respected for this. You can think, as I wrote in Twitter, you can think of him whatever you want. But he is a man of conviction, and his convictions should be respected. So the way he is treated right now, and the way we saw he was extradited from the embassy, well, there are a lot of questions about it. We'll see, but we hope that really he will not be prosecuted for his views, which seems to be the picture. I heard, I don't know all the details, I heard that there was a demand from the United States for his extradition, which really raises a lot of doubts about what will happen to him and whether it can be somehow analyzed through the notion of free speech and freedom of speech at all. So we'll see, of course. I was very sad and very worried, because for me Assange was kind of symbol. We have Snowden in Russia. You also can't portray him 100% pro-Russian. He's a whistleblower. Whistleblowers exist. America has a lot of whistleblowers than they support, but when they blow in the wrong side, America sometimes say, well, he's a bad guy. If we respect freedom of speech, then it should be overall respect for the freedom of speech, and there shouldn't be double standards. So we hope that, I personally hope, I can't speak for my government, of course, and I am absolutely sure that my government will make certain remarks in this regard. I hope that he will be treated with due respect to his personal rights and with respect to his convictions.
Thank you.
Okay, Al-Maidin or Al-Maidin?
Mr. Ambassador, Nizar Aboud of Al Mayadeen Television in Lebanon. Mr. Pence said yesterday that Venezuela is a failed state, and it constitutes a threat to international peace and security. Also, he mentioned that many terrorists from Hezbollah, from Revolutionary Guards of Iran, as he said, are coming to Venezuela. Do you share that view, or what is your response to that? Also, when you mentioned a package for Venezuela and you will not let Venezuela alone, are you considering a financial package for Venezuela to rescue the depreciation of the value of their currency or something like that?
Well, from the second question, I don't have in mind anything specific and concrete. We have exchanges with them. We have bilateral channels to discuss such issues. They are in a very bad situation really right now. They are kind of a fortress that is being attacked from a lot of actors, very powerful actors, and they first and foremost need support from the people who really share the understanding that international law should prevail. That's what we're rendering right now. We send them specialists that could help them in very practical issues to reestablish normal life. As for the rogue state, well, I don't know the criteria, frankly speaking. Is there such a notion in international law, a rogue state? Or failed state. Okay, failed state. I don't know. What is failed state? I saw a lot of images from Venezuela, a lot of coverage that is not shown and printed in mainstream media. They are very contradictory to what the Americans try to present about the situation there and about the support of or lack of support to current authorities. So the picture is far from being the one that Americans want to present. Yes, they want to create an impression with everybody that Venezuela is a failed state, that it can't take care of their citizens. But well, if you act against this country as they are acting right now, of course it will be more and more difficult for it to take care of its citizens, because this is a blockade. These are sanctions, very strict sanctions. As my ambassador yesterday formulated in the Security Council, America, with one hand, is holding Venezuela by the throat, strangling it. With the other hand, it's pickpocketing Venezuela, and at the same time, it's crying that Venezuela can't take care of its citizens. It's a very difficult situation for any countries. For any country, can you imagine a country that would easily cope with the loss, with financial loss of such a big sum of money that Venezuela has lost only recently? We know about, if I'm not mistaken, $31.2 billion of dollars that were directly stolen by Americans and by British, regardless of what my British colleague tried to present yesterday in the Security Council. The Bank of England played a very important role in this regard. So they stole this money, and the total losses amount to hundreds of billions of dollars. I could imagine that even the U.S., if it were deprived of this sum of money, would sense the consequences for its economy and for its people. And of course, Venezuela is not an exception. And that's why, of course, we need to help this country, first of all. We need to mobilize our support, I mean those who are respectful of international law. And I don't know such a criteria as a failed state, and you can't label it from your position, from your perspective. We can have different opinions, but we need to observe certain principles, certain norms of behavior, and we need to not to forget about respect for legal authorities of the country, for its people, and for decision-making process within this country. Okay.
Maria.
Thank you, Theodore. You said that in case of if U.S. is preparing any resolution, we will wait and see. But we remember that last time they prepared their own draft resolution. Russia document. Is Russia preparing anything? Any document right now on Venezuela?
No, we are not. We don't want to prepare a document for the sake of document. We understand that the Americans are totally obsessed by overthrowing the current authorities of Venezuela. We are ready if there is a proposal of some balanced text by the Security Council members that would respect international law and that would respect Venezuelan people and its rights, even stating the necessity of helping this country through humanitarian channels, but with the participation of legal authorities of this country. I don't see any problems for us to support this text. But as you know, and it was asked to me today, the task of the Americans now is to show that this is a failed state, that there is a dictator who doesn't want to take care of its people, and that there should be some international measures mobilized against this country. And this is the approach that we do not share. So for the time being, I don't see any prospect for this. General Assembly is a different story, of course. It has different procedures, but again, we haven't heard of any initiative so far. So let's understand what the Americans are planning to do, if they do anything. I don't know. They announced peace plan for Middle East for how long? I don't know. We're still waiting for it. So they have a different sense of time, I think. Okay.
Okay, if we can move to another part of the world, Europe. On the issue of Brexit, where the UK, as you know, has received, shall we say, a stay of execution until the day of Halloween, 31st of October, to get itself sorted out. Could you clarify what is the position of Russia on a country like UK leaving the European Union, or do you have any advice or comment to make?
We don't have any position. We are not supposed to have any position on Brexit. We respect United Kingdom, and we are ready to maintain good relations with United Kingdom, with the European Union or without European Union. It's up to United Kingdom to decide. We hope that the current difficulties in the negotiations and all these discussions, they will not force and push our British colleagues to come up with some provocations or some moves like Skripal case that we had a year ago, and according to the opinion of many people, that were designed to kind of divert attention of British voters from the current situation in the country. Let UK decide its problem themselves. We do not meddle. We hope that UK will not meddle in our affairs. So we are absolutely neutral in this regard. Let Brexit happen, let Brexit not happen. It's up to people of United Kingdom to decide.
Carol.
Struggling. Ambassador Polyanskiy, I wanted to ask you about Libya. Your government has relations with Haftarah, and the Security Council is discussing what to do with this situation in Tripoli. Is Russia speaking to General Haftarah in these days about what is going on near Tripoli? And given what the Secretary General said yesterday about avoiding a bloody battle in Tripoli, do you think General Haftarah should face sanctions or some measure if indeed there's a full-scale war in the capital?
It's very difficult for me to see what is in General Haftarah's head. Of course, Russia, as other members of the United Nations and Security Council, are speaking to all parts, all Libyan parts, and we have the approaches of the international community, which we respect, and you can't mention anything very specific about Russia that would be too different from other international players in this field. Not only we had relations and having relations with General Haftarah, a lot of other countries also do. So again, we are for peaceful resolution of all the problems, for inclusive dialogue, and we hope that the stability in Libya will prevail. We are all very much interested. in that since the situation in this country was kind of aggravated and stability was destroyed with the help of Western intervention. The whole northern part of Africa and a lot of countries suffer from this, continue to suffer. We really feel that, and we voiced it several times in the Security Council, that until the Libyan crisis is resolved, until there is the stability in this country, we can't really hope for resolution of a lot of African issues. That's why we are very hopeful that at some point the situation in Libya will come to normal. And we also hope that the world will learn the lessons from interference in Libyan affairs in 2011 and to understand that the consequences can be very dire and long and for many years, for not only for the country but for the whole region. Okay.
Simplify my question. Do you think General Haftar, when you talk about Libya's stability, do you think General Haftar is part of the solution or the problem to that?
We think that all Libyan parts are supposed to be part of the solution. But again, I don't have a crystal ball, as you see. It's very difficult for me to predict anything. Let's see what happens. Security Council is discussing this issue, and we are following it very closely.
Thank you. Ambassador, coming back to Venezuela, you mentioned the agreements that you have with the government of Nicolás Maduro, and you mentioned a specialist. In which areas are the specialists and the technical assistance that you're providing? Do you know the number of them, and if they're in one specific location or throughout the country? And then one of the things that you also mentioned is the fact that the money is very difficult to do financial transactions. It's been said that the government of Nicolás Maduro is finding other financial systems that will be able to assist them to mobilize their funds. Will that be Russia, the banking system that they might be working with you to try to get their assets moving as they need to purchase their elements to keep producing oil? And then finally, what is the commitment that you guys have with, how far would that friendship and relationship will take you? Will that mean further assistance to have more of a exchanges? And when is the next meeting of the group of friends that met last time with the Foreign Minister Arreza? Thank you.
Okay, I'll start again from the end, and I'll try to not to forget any of your questions. They were quite a lot. Thank you that you stick to Venezuela topic. It's very. I would like to encourage it very much. It's not for us to initiate and to hold a meeting of friends of Venezuela, because we are friends of Venezuela. So of course Venezuela should, if they want, ask us to meet again. And I think that someday it will happen. There are a lot of friends of Venezuela, and we say in Russia that a friend in need is a friend indeed. So we really understand the problems that this country is facing. We're ready to help. We are ready to help them to cope with the current economic problems that they have. That's why we sent these specialists. As far as I know, I don't know the details, frankly speaking, because we didn't receive any information about this. But as far as I understand, it's about engineers, it's about technical specialists, it's about the guys that would help to maintain the electric system, I don't know, some facilities. I also I read the news, same as you did, about, I think, 3 planes, but I can't confirm this information because we never received anything official and detailed. So maybe our embassy in Caracas has more details, but we don't see it as something extraordinary, frankly speaking. It has been done before, and the only thing that it was put into focus of attention right now is because the Americans view now any step of this kind as something extraordinary. This was planned before. There was no emergency in this situation. It's a routine thing for us to exchange with Venezuela of specialists, and again, I don't see any sensation in this. It's artificial sensation. How far we will go, I don't know. It's first of all, what worries us here it's the situation around Venezuela. So we are absolutely sure that Venezuelans can solve all their problems themselves. They're capable of doing this. They are very talented people, and they shouldn't be. Nobody should meddle into it, and Venezuela should have the same possibilities for development as any other country of the region. Again, it's not polite. It's not just. It's not fair. To shout about Venezuela problems and to strangle this country with the other hand at the same time. And we try to highlight this situation. We try to be useful. We try to show that this all is a clear breach of international law. It's a clear interference into internal affairs of another state. And this is really what Venezuelans want very much from international community right now, and they are very thankful to us and to other countries that voice their position. And we understand that the solution of Venezuelan situation is through dialogue, through inclusive dialogue. We know that Venezuelan authorities are ready for such dialogue. We also noted that Mr. Guaidó is not ready for such dialogue. Maybe he doesn't have the necessary instructions from Washington. So if he gets instructions, it's up to him and to Venezuelan government to decide. It should be inclusive dialogue. You can't ignore the situation, the fact that there are a lot of supporters of current government in Venezuela. There are some opposing views, which is normal for democracy. And our task as an international community is to help these parties to hold negotiations and to come to a certain solution. And we do not pose any preconditions for this, as Americans do. We think that the dialogue should be waged in Venezuela by Venezuelans with assistance maybe from international community, but it should be Venezuela-driven and Venezuela-made dialogue. That's our position. That's how we help. We think that the political situation now really needs a lot of attention, and we should be very clear, and we should not leave anything that is that can be interpreted in an ambiguous way. Everything should be clear about what's happening, and this is a good help to Venezuela right now to show that it is not alone, that there are a lot of countries who understand what's happening, who take it by face value, and who are not afraid to call the things by their names. In the financial system, again, it's very difficult for me to answer. I read a lot of analysis about how difficult it is now to trade with Venezuela, but I'm sure that the solutions can be found for this country as well. Again, it's rather a question not of it's not a Venezuela. It's not a problem created by Venezuela. It's a problem created by external pressure, unlawful pressure on this country. So we must deal with this external pressure first and foremost. In the meantime, of course, we need to help the Venezuelans to survive during these times when our American friends are obsessed with this regime change idea. And we hope that the things will come to normal, and there we can speak about in more detail about financial instruments, about other things. The UN agencies can be also very helpful in this regard right now, and yesterday we heard during the briefing that they are ready to step in. And we think that this is a way that should be exploited with full respect and with full dignity, respect of dignity of Venezuelan people and Venezuelan current government. Okay?
Maybe a couple of last questions.
Yeah.
Shona?
Hello.
I don't know if I need this or not. I had a quick question. I wanted to ask Celia's question about the technical assistance, but you answered that. And we understand that Russia is on the Credentials Committee. Have you received any indication from the U.S. about any procedures to take away the credentials, although it was just announced yesterday? And then I had a second question, if I may, on the issue of North Korea and the negotiations involved in the renewal of the mandate and where Russia is going with requests on easing up on the humanitarian needs in terms of sanctions? Thank
These
you.
two questions are very difficult for me. First one, because yes, Russia is on the credentials committee, but there are other colleagues in my mission who are dealing with this. As far as I know, when I was leaving the mission in the morning, there was no such information. So maybe the situation has changed while we are speaking. So I'm not the person who is entitled to know the details, the final details about this. For North Korea, I really don't want to eat the bread of my colleagues, and it would be not very much polite. The situation is complex, and there are a lot of aspects there that you need to take into consideration. So I would encourage you really to pose questions to our experts, okay?
I was wondering if I'd be able to ask, you said inclusive dialogue. I was wondering how you try to assist in the facilitation of this dialogue, and also what other
Sorry, I didn't understand the question. Can you repeat
Oh,
it once
how
again?
you would assist in the inclusive dialogue.
Okay.
And also, what else would you do to assist to solve this crisis peacefully? And lastly, what you think of Pence saying that all options are on the table?
I don't think it's a new idea from the United States that all options are on the table. It's for them to explain what's on their table. I have red file on my table. That's I'm sure. And there are a lot of documents there about different aspects. What's on the Americans' table, I don't know. You can interpret the situation in hundreds of ways. I think it's a signal from them that they have really all the possibilities in their head. I don't know. Some people say it's also about military option, but they never said it directly. So you should better ask American administration what they mean by this. We hope that they will not come to military solution, and I know that the countries of the region, even those who are not very much supportive of current authorities of Venezuela, are absolutely afraid of any military option because they understand what consequences it will have for the whole of the region. How can we assist? Well, we try to assist. We know that there are a lot of intermediate mechanisms. We have Montevideo mechanism, which we support very much. We think that they have all the chances to succeed. We know that there is also a contact group. We know that there are initiatives by European Union. But, well, we are ready to participate in any efforts to work with whoever to solve this issue. We think that there should be no preconditions, because if you kind of burn bridges, recognizing one part and saying that the others are murderers and I don't know who else, it would be very difficult for you to act as a mediator in such negotiations. So, as you might have noticed, Russia has said nothing insulting to Mr. Guaidó. He is from National Assembly, and National Assembly is part of Venezuelan society. We were very much worried by the way he proclaimed himself president. Of course, it doesn't give him a lot of credit, but we never excluded him. We say that it's up to Venezuelans to decide who will be part of the solution for the situation in this country, and we need to create, we as international community, we need to create all the conditions for them to do so. That's our task. And not to meddle and not to interfere into internal affairs of this country. That's the I would say red lines and the starting points of our approach to the settlement of this crisis. So all the countries that share this approach can play a very important role. All those who try to intimidate Venezuelan people and who threaten it with some actions, I don't know how efficient as mediators they really can be. Okay, no more questions as far as I understand. I hope everything was clear and helpful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, folks.